Hello everyone, my name is Dylan and I'd like to welcome you to the channel. Today we're just going to do a overview of my 42-gallon soft coral dominated reef, and I'm just going to quickly explain to you guys how I keep this thing healthy and how everything runs. So this tank's 30 inches across, and like I said, it's about 95% soft corals. And because of that, the tank is relatively low maintenance, which is great. I have a pretty busy schedule, so it's nice, having a tank that I don't have to micromanage, every day or whatnot. I also have a ton of fish in this tank. From my past experience, these soft corals actually do a bit better with a bit more nitrates in the water, and having a lot of these fish in the tank help provide that for these corals. I run this tank around 5 to 10 nitrates, so it's not a lot, but they're definitely there, and when I put it any lower than that, the corals start to not like it as much, and they won't open up as full. So first I'm just going to kind of show you all the corals in the tank, and then I'll show you guys all the equipment and everything that I use to run it. So starting from left to right, this is my branching green star polyp colony. It was sold to me as that from a local fish store 6 or so years ago. I think it actually may be a type of briarium, but I'm not sure as of yet. And what makes this coral really cool compared to normal GSP is that it doesn't mat over everything. And having GSP in a tank could sometimes be a bit much, as it'll start matting over everything and growing over other corals and stinging. And this one just kind of goes vertical, which is great. And the colors on it are absolutely amazing. And it grows really, really quickly. I've probably fragged this colony probably well over 100 times, and it just keeps on trucking. I've had this one for, like I said, about 6 years now. One of my favorite corals. And going a little bit to the right here is my Toadstool Leather. Absolutely love this coral. It's probably my favorite coral in the tank. I got it from a fish store about a year ago. They said it's from Fiji. And I just love what this coral provides to the tank. It's kind of the centerpiece of the tank, as you can see where I placed it. The polyps are always blowing in the current, which provides a great sense of movement in the tank. And the clownfish, this guy right here, sleeps in it at night and is kind of always going against the polyps during the day. This right here is a yellow Fiji leather. This one's also going to be a toadstool. I got this one relatively recently, so it's not quite large yet. This one's going to have a lot shorter polyps than this toadstool, and it's going to get a bit wider, I believe, and it's going to be a bit more yellow in color, so I'm kind of excited to see how that one grows out. And then moving over, I have a bunch of different tree soft corals. There's quite a few different species in here. There's a couple of Kenya trees, and there's also this kind of this greener version of them. I got this from a local fish store a couple of years ago, and I fragged these guys quite a bit as well. And what I like about these particular ones over normal Kenya trees is they have better color. Their bases are green, kind of like the stalk of the coral is a bit green, which is nice, and they don't drop polyps everywhere like normal Kenya trees do. And the stalk itself is a lot longer than a lot of Kenya trees I've had before. So this coral I've been really pleased with, and they just keep growing. Back there is a Gorgonian. That one is from the Caribbean. I got it from KP Aquatics a couple of years ago. That one's done relatively well. I move it around quite a bit just because stuff starts growing, and Gorgonians really don't like getting touched. And then going back over here, just some more corals over here. This is a green Sinularia right here. It provides a huge splash of color in the tank. It used to be a lot more prominent in the tank, but some of the other corals have kind of grown in front of it, and I can't see it as much. I plan on fragging it and putting it in a couple other places in the tank. This is another Sinularia right here. I'd cut that one off the other one, and it grows against the all the different xenia and whatnot over there. And I'm moving down to the right. These are some rusty orange Gorgonians. Really like this coral. They flow in the current quite a bit as well, and they provide a good sense of orange in the tank, which is kind of a tough coral or tough color to get in reef aquariums. So really enjoying these guys. Then I have a couple of micro musa scattered around. You can see a green one right there, and then there's a red one right here. Those are actually the only LPS in the tank. They do quite well. They don't really bother anything, and they grow relatively good as well, which is nice. I feed those guys mysis about once a week or so, and that seems to make them quite happy. Here's my blue Maxima clam. I used to have a gigantic Jurassic clam that took over this entire sand bed, but it was just getting too big and was starting to get shaded out by the other corals on top. So I ended up selling that one. So as of right now, I'm sticking with this blue Maxima right here. It provides a good sense of blue in the tank, which is a color that I don't have anywhere else. And it's done really well. I've had it for I think 6 months or so, and it's gotten a lot bigger, which is good. And I think it likes this spot in the sand. It gets a lot of lights directly underneath it, and nothing really bothers it down there. And then moving over to the left here, this is a rock flower anemone. I got this one from a local fish store as well. Really like flower anemones. This one hasn't moved at all since I put it in. I've had it about a year right there. I also feed that one mysis, and it usually catches quite a few when I feed the fish, but I spot feed it every 3 or 4 days or so. Yeah, it's always done really well. It provides a good pink color to the tank, and it's just kind of an interesting invert to have around. And then I have a couple of these orange ball sponges scattered around as well. These are also from KP Aquatics. And what's cool is that usually sponges just do not do well in reef aquariums. And I've had these guys for well over a year now, and they've actually grown quite a bit. And they have just fantastic color. I usually put them in shaded areas a bit, just because I don't want algae growing on the outer part of the sponge, as that could clog their pores or whatnot. But that's kind of a basic overview of some of the main corals in here. Obviously, there's a ton of there's green hairy mushrooms kind of on the bottom, a lot of the shaded areas, and Xenia is pretty prolific in this tank, as you could tell. I've had Xenia in all my tanks forever, especially the soft coral ones. It's a bit irritating as it kind of grows, everywhere, but it's fine. They don't really sting anything, and then once they start getting crazy, I'm able to prune them relatively easily. And over in this top left section right here, I've kind of let all the corals grow out as they would without any human interference. And I think the look is actually kind of cool. It looks like a gigantic just forest of soft coral. So I do like the look. There's also a couple aptation here as well. They haven't really spread, so I'm not really going to touch them until they do. If they do start spreading, I might add a couple peppermint shrimp in here, then rehome one of the wrasses for them to knock those out. But right now, it's just not too much of an issue. And like I said earlier, this tank does have quite a few fish in it, and the selection of fish in here is pretty cool in my opinion. I kind of tried to get fish from all different niches. So there's fish that go in the water column, there's fish on the sand, there's fish that go around the rocks, picking at the rocks, perching on the rocks. So I'll quickly give you a quick tour of the fish. First and foremost, the ones that are always out the most, I have 3 female lighter tail anthias in the tank. I got these as a trio, and they've done really well. There's really no aggression between the 3, and they've all stayed female, so I'm crossing my fingers that stays so. What I do to the anthias is I feed them 3 or 4 times a day, and I've noticed that really helps curb the aggression a bit. And as of right now, everything's been good with them, and you can't beat the orange color that those anthias provide the tank. It's just absolutely amazing. And then this right here is my clownfish. I call him Half Stripe. He's the only fish with a name in the tank. He, as you can tell, he has a half stripe on his middle of this body right there. I've had that guy for probably around 5 years or so. I rescued it from a buddy's tank. He was being neglected a bit, and he lives a good life in here now. And he's usually in this toadstool right here, but he thinks he's getting food, so he's going to be swimming around. Here is my Tomini Tang. Really like this guy. No aggression at all with them, which is great. And it keeps the tank completely clear of algae. If there's any algae at all, this guy is getting it immediately. Eats everything, and like I said earlier, for being a Tang in a 42 gallon, no aggression issues whatsoever, and really like this guy. If he starts getting any bigger, which he will, or starts displaying aggression issues, I may have to rehome him, just as the tank is a bit small for him. But as of right now, he's doing really well. Great coloration, never has shown any signs of ick or any other disease, and just really enjoying this fish. Right here's my Royal Grandma. Provides a cool purple and yellow contrast in the tank. Another good fish in here. Eats everything I put in there. No aggression at all. And it just kind of hangs out. It's usually in this cave right there with below that little tiny kidney tree. It hangs out there most of the day. But like I said earlier, he thinks he's getting food, so he's going to be out and about. Here's a Bluegreen Chromis. I've had him quite a while as well. Spends most of the day just in the water column, and the Chromis and the Antheus swim around together pretty much all day, and they seem to tolerate each other swimming with each other, so it's kind of a cool contrast with the blue and orange, and it's something I really enjoy. Trying to find what else I could see right now. This is the Melanie Wrasse. Pretty big boy. His main purpose in this tank is to eat pests. I used to have some zoanthid eating nudibranchs in here, and this wrasse right here took care of the problem in about 2 days. Eats anything I put in there, including some cleanup crew, which is a bit frustrating, but the pest eating of this guy just makes it worth having him in there. And it's just nice having a backup in case something weird gets put in here, any weird nudibranchs, red bugs, if I had SBS or anything like that. Here's the resident sand dweller. It's a yellow watchman goby. I don't have a pistol shrimp paired with him, but he doesn't mind. He hangs out in the sand all day, and seems to always hang out by the Maxima clam, which is kind of funny. And here's a sand shifting sea star. I actually share this guy with a couple of other friends, which is cool. So always provides him a food source, as in a lot of tanks they'll start to starve, but by rotating between a couple of them, the sand bed's able to replenish some of the stuff that they eat, which is good. And then there's also a Falco hawkfish in here. I don't see him at the moment. He's probably a little shy with the camera, but I like having him in the tank just because he'll be darting in and out of the rock work, and he's always perching around. It's kind of a funny fish to see, and a lot of the people that come over seem to get a lot of humor out of that guy. And there's also a spotted mandarin here as well. He's really shy. He's really small, but it does eat mysis, which is great. So it's a nice and fat. And I got that one from Biota a while ago. I special ordered it from a fish store, and it ate mysis pretty much right out of the gate, which was great. And so that about does it for the livestock in this one. I'll quickly go over the equipment here. For lighting, I have an SB Reef light, a 16-inch fixture, and I've been really pleased with it. It's not an expensive fixture at all, and I realize it doesn't look the best on the tank, but I don't think it necessarily looks bad either. And what I really like about this fixture, it has the timer built in, which is nice, so I don't have to spend money on the timer. I don't have to keep messing with apps and whatnot. You kind of just set it and forget it. And it has a really good spread of LEDs, as you can see right there. And the light is really powerful. So the entire tank is lit very nicely by it. I run at about 40% power on both the blue and the white channels. And pretty much anything I put in here grows really well, including really highlight items such as the Maxima clam. I mean, I have the Maxima on the sand bed, and it's getting more than enough light. I've measured par in here a couple times, and I was getting well over 200 on the sand bed, so the light's output is really good, and I've been really happy with it so far. And the rest of the filtration is down in the sump, and I'll quickly show that to you guys. So because I feed this tank really heavily, so I have quite a bit of filtration on here for a soft coral tank. The primary means of filtration in this tank, in my opinion, is this Cheeto refugium. And I have this grow light from Amazon above it. It may be hard to see just because it doesn't come in the camera very well, but I prune this Cheeto almost all the way back weekly, and it'll grow all the way back, and I take it out. It also provides a lot of pods in the tank, so occasionally I'll shake the Cheeto out over the tank, and a lot of pods will fall in, and it provides the fish with a live food source, which is cool. So ever since adding the Cheeto, I really can't get the nitrates above 5 or so, and it provides a good balance for the tank, just because I feed 3 to 4 times a day, and without that, I think my nitrates would skyrocket quite a bit. Just have a normal heater in the middle chamber, just a Jaeger heater, does the job. And then in this chamber right here is my skimmer. It is a Bubble Magus Curve 5. Skimmers run really well for me. Never really had any issues with it, and I clean this skimmer cup about once every week and a half or so, and it's done perfect for me. And I think just the skimmer plus Cheeto combination gives this tank a really strong backbone of filtration, just to kind of counteract my really heavy feedings. For flow in the tank, I use a MP10. I run it at about 70% power in here, which is quite a bit on Reef Crest mode. Soft coral, people say it needs a lot less flow, but just from running this tank for a couple of years now, they tend to do better with higher flow, higher random flow, and that's how I keep it. Especially the toadstools, I noticed they'll close up if they're not getting enough flow. So I'll jack up the flow quite a bit, and the return pump goes from this nozzle right here, and that has about 300 gallons per hour. And that water hits kind of right in the middle where this MP10 hits, which creates a lot of random flow in the tank, which is nice as well. And then this tank also has an auto top-off system. It's a Tunze osmolator. Fantastic piece of equipment. I've had that one for about 4 or 5 years now and never had an issue with it as well. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the tank. I mean, I say quick, but this is a 17-minute video. But if anyone has any questions in the comments, I'll be glad to answer anything you may ask. And I'll go over some of the other things I do for this tank in a bit more detail in a future video. But I just wanted to give a quick overview of the tank and show you guys how everything works and see what's going on in it. So with that, I hope you all have a good day, and I'll go ahead and end the video. Thanks.